I wanted to make a video to give test taking tips, but specifically test taking tips for the STAR writing test. So let's jump right into it. When you're writing an essay, one of the most important things that you can do is finish. And you need to make sure you finish well, because your conclusion, your last paragraph, is the last thing that whoever is reading your essay or whoever is grading it is going to see. So you need to make sure that it's good. Now, the purpose of a conclusion is to restate the thesis, so you need to be very specific in the beginning. You summarize what was said in the essay, just a little bit. You move toward the general topic, and then you wrap up the essay. Now, when you're restating the thesis, I'm going to give you an example here. The thesis in your introduction is the last sentence, but in your conclusion, it's going to be the first sentence. Now, in the introduction, it might sound like this. Ultimately, having a dress code is better because it allows more freedom and it prevents distractions. In my conclusion, when I restate it as the first sentence, it might sound like this. Greater freedom and less distractions are two ways having a dress code is better than school uniforms. All I did was flip-flop the end and the beginning. So it's restated, but really it's the same words that are in there. So it's not that difficult to restate your thesis statement. Now, as you summarize in your conclusion, you don't want to get really specific in your summary, because the goal of the conclusion is to start specific and end very general. So your summarizing is when you refer to the topic of each body paragraph. So maybe one sentence for each main idea within your body paragraph. You want to also leave the reader with something to think about at the end, and then suggest something that readers can do about what they've read. So maybe it's a suggestion, you're leaving them with a thought, maybe you're asking a question, but something in order to make it more general and to summarize some of the points that you've had. Now, the structure. Again, I said before that you begin with the restated thesis, so you want to start very specific. And then you move into one or two supporting sentences where you're summarizing the main points until you finally get to the closing sentence where you're leaving the reader with a thought. Now, your conclusion. It's very important because, again, you have to finish well. And the conclusion is not supposed to introduce new information. So if you have information that you really want to put into the conclusion and it's brand new, then find a way to put it in your body paragraph, because your conclusion is just supposed to wrap things up. It's not supposed to introduce new things. Now, here's some strategies for ending. Sometimes people don't know how to end, so let me give you a few of these strategies. You can end with a quotation. You might end with suggesting an action to be taken by the reader. Maybe you end by bringing up questions for further study. Maybe you end with just a dramatic statement to finalize whatever you were saying throughout your essay. The important thing is to wrap everything up and come to a clear ending. Now, here's an example for an expository essay. If the topic is what is better, dress code or school uniforms, my thesis statement would be, ultimately, having a dress code is better because it allows more freedom and it prevents distractions. Now, here's what my conclusion would sound like. Remember, I need to begin with my restated thesis. I need to have a couple summarized sentences or supporting sentences in the middle, and then I need to come to some sort of final ending statement. So this is what it would sound like. Greater freedom and less distractions are two reasons a dress code is better than school uniforms. When students feel like they have freedom, they will begin to perform better within the classroom. Eliminating distractions will not only improve classroom performance, but reduce behavioral issues in the school. As schools begin thinking about these results, they will make the right decision in the end. Dress codes. So I left them with a thought, but I made sure that I provided that thought. I didn't want them to think about their own thoughts. I wanted to provide the thought for them. And my provided thought was, ultimately, it's better to have dress codes. So I ended with drama. I gave them a point to focus on. Now, if you want to have more resources or read more samples of conclusions or expository essays, or even personal narrative essays. You can go to mrferrero.com and click on Test Taking Tips. And when you get there, there'll be resources provided that you can print off, or you can read online, or you can download, or whatever you want to do with those in order to get better at writing a conclusion and ultimately at writing an essay. What you need to remember, though, is you have everything it takes to be successful on this test.